Excellent.
Okay, let's start. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Online Dating. My guest today is Maria Romano. She wrote a book called One Plus One, and it talks about relationships. And this is why she is here to teach us how to better date.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much, Maria. It's so nice to meet you. And yes, dating, actually, I started this because I'm a widow and I lost my husband over 8 years ago. And getting back in the dating world, it was a little difficult because the platforms have changed. You're younger, so maybe you've been a little bit more exposed to online dating and meetup groups, and people my age, we just didn't know what to do. So that's yes. So the book is called Going from Just One to a Plus One, because if you've been in a relationship, right, and you're divorced, widow to widower, when you get invited to events, you RSVP plus one. Well, it's not, so that's how I started.
That's beautiful. I also saw something on your Facebook the other day about dating yourself. I want us to understand why it's important that you date yourself.
Well, the first thing is you really need to fill your own cup first. And I think that's the key thing, and getting to like yourself. It's, I even tell this analogy that's similar to what I tell parents that are single parents, with wanting to date. When you get on an airplane, right, Maria? And what does the steward tell you, the flight attendant? In case of emergency, if you have a child with you, first put the mask on you and then put your mask on the child. So the thing is we need to always remember to fill our cup first and take care of ourselves. And part of that is learning how to love yourself. And that's because most people, we don't really love ourselves, right? Sometimes we look at ourselves and we're critical, and we are our own worst critics, and we really need to appreciate the imperfections that we have. And that doesn't happen overnight. Sometimes that takes time. And that's why it's important to love you, because then you don't lose sight of who you are. Because when you get into a relationship, you need to be authentically you and not what the other person wants you to be or perceives you to be.
Yeah, that could be hard when you're in a relationship where you want to be everything what he wants or she wants, and it's like you're losing yourself by doing that.
Yes, it's so true. And more women have had issues with that. Not that men don't, and especially as we're younger, because we're still feeling our way around and getting to find out who we are and develop more security about being who we are. So I think that's one of the issues, and I think it's so important for girls to be fearless and to definitely, always be true to who you are, and that's the key thing.
What do you recommend for someone that has been told they're not worth it or they don't deserve any good? How to
First of
start
all,
that work?
take those words out, throw them out of your vocabulary. Everybody is valuable. Anybody that breathes, anybody in life has been given a gift. Okay, and that's the first thing. So just because somebody tells you those words, and those words stick, they have a life. You think about when somebody says something to you, they might tell you all the great things about you, but then they give you this one thing that they think you should change or you should do, and what do you focus on?
The bad thing.
Negative, right?
Yes.
And that's different, and that is not easy to overcome that. Even though I can tell everybody, your listeners, you really need to discipline yourself to just not. There goes the dogs. You really need to discipline yourselves and not take those words to heart that somebody says you're not good enough. That's because really they're not good enough. And that's always when somebody comes to you and gives you that type of information, and really sometimes that's kind of mean. I don't care what anybody says.
Yeah.
It's because they're unhappy in their world. So don't allow their unhappiness to spill over in your world. And one of the tips is I always tell clients, and this is what I do myself. I was listening to a recording of Maya Angelou, who was a great woman that wrote a lot and talked a lot about self. And she said something that really stuck with me, and I actually use it in my book, part of it. She said, whenever you walk into a situation and you're unsure or it's a little hostile, always take your your tribe with you, people that have been in your life, right, that have encouraged you, that have been your biggest cheerleaders. So I thought about that and I said, take your love tribe with you. So whenever somebody does that, just call on the people that have been in your life, and I call it praying, whatever. Maybe it's a grandparent that's no longer here. Maybe it's a parent. Maybe it's a friend. And just imagine them around you and telling you you are good enough, you are worth it, and not to allow somebody's words to crush you. And it does, it takes it. You can overcome that and recognize it's the other person, not you.
I love that. I just learned about that concept too, and I applied it the other day when I went to apply for a job. And I went to the front desk and I asked for an application. The manager comes out and like he's in a hurry to take me in. And I'm filling up the application and he's in a hurry because he wanted me to finish. I'm like, thank you for checking on me, but I'm almost done. He comes back and sends another person to interview me, and then he comes back and offers me the position. And I did that on the way of driving to apply for that job. So I can tell you it works. And it's just, it works in a beautiful way that you will be amazed if you try it.
That's so true. And mindset, people don't realize their energy really says a lot about them. And it's a matter of, you asked, like, loving yourself, right? That's the first thing, which we just talked about. And then not allowing words to really take a hold of you. Now, that doesn't mean that if there's something you can improve upon, that you shouldn't. But kind of know, trust your gut. You know what's right.
I think when other people that are not your parents tell you, it's like you have a right to doubt it. But when it comes from your parents, I think it's harder because we think they love us or they are supposed to love us and they're supposed to wish the best for ourselves. And when you hear words that are told to you by your parents, I think those are harder because they come from a very young age where it's always like in your mind, and it's like almost the voice is always there.
Yes, that's true. It's interesting you say that because when I work with people, especially, people in their 50s, 60s, and 70s, believe it or not, they're a product of their childhood. And listen, parents, that's why it's parenting. We're still learning. It's like anything else. Sometimes parents, they mean well. They love you. They just don't know how to articulate or demonstrate it. And it's only because of the patterns that they've been exposed to when they were younger. And it's important to recognize that even though parents might say things, they think that they're motivating you and they're really not. It's only because they just don't know themselves. And the key thing is then to recognize it and make sure you're not repeating that with your children. And I saw that you had your son on.
Yes.
Today, he was just adorable.
Thank you, Maria. You know what happened is one of my guests for the interview, when we recorded it, we had a really bad connection. So I didn't tell it was very hard for me to try to edit it. I spent like an entire day trying doing it and it didn't work. So I texted back and I insisted that we do it again, but he wasn't interested. So I had a gap on my number 8 and I was already on 16. So when George Gilbert was on the show, he told me that the show must go on. And I thought, well, maybe he's not ready for me, but I don't want to leave that gap because it was dragging me back, and I didn't want that to happen. I need my friends to advance, and I needed to fill that gap. And so I asked my little one, and he said yes. And we didn't plan anything, and it's just how it came. He kind of interviewed me, I guess, at the end.
You know what? That's going to encourage more people that have podcasts to have their children on. Mm-hmm. And I'll tell you, some big podcasters do. But you know what? It's great for him. Not just good for you, it's good for him. And actually, I think that you'll probably have the most views on that particular YouTube. So kudos to him, starting young.
Thank you. Yeah, he wants to come back already. He says, "Oh, that was fun. Can I come back?" I say, "Yeah, of course." Yeah, it's just, I think the wisdom is always there. I don't discourage young people. I recommend people that if you're planning to do something, talk to a little one and see what they say. Because they have this innocence, but they also have this ability to connect to the universe and to God. And it's so easy sometimes that we don't probably give enough credit to it, but I think it's very valuable.
It's so true, and interestingly enough, when you get to a certain age in life, you get to a point where, think about your childhood. When you were younger, you allow your son to paint whatever he enjoys doing, right? So they are not under the confines of having to work, right, and provide an income. They're just learning, and they're like a sponge, and they have an opportunity to really develop and find out who they truly are. And I think what happens throughout our lives is, we become parents, right? We have responsibilities. So we're always doing things for other people. But then there's going to be a point in time. Now, I know you still have young ones. My daughter's 35 and I have grandkids. And it comes to a point where I can really now figure out what I want to do and not have to be and worry about anybody or anything. Yeah. So, that's a great gift to have. And I think we see it as we're younger, but it's important, like you said, to develop them. And what you're giving is giving him such a great foundation too, that when he goes out into the world to find love, he's going to have a healthy perspective because he has a fabulous mom that's teaching him. It's true.
Yeah, he is the most caring and loving individual that I found throughout my life. I think it is a blessing, and the funny part of it is that he is autistic. So that
really?
might be a contribution of why he is that way, but I am grateful that he is in my life because he contributes to my happiness in a big manner. And I'm truly in love with him. There's no other way to describe it. I'm just truly in love. Yeah, it's that pure love that you experience with little ones. But also what I want to tell people is that enjoy your stages in life.
That is, yes, you say something that's very interesting, Maria, because we sometimes rush through everything in life. And I know I look back in my life and I think, oh my God, how many things I missed. Not that I was physically there, but I wasn't emotionally present, and mentally present. And that's because we have so many outside influences, so much pressure. And even now today, parents that are at home, maybe you're single and at home with children, you might not have any relief if you're not co-parenting. And that's got to be difficult as well, being able to, again, fill your cup. But even though you might feel this pressure, it's important to make sure that you are present for your children, for yourself, because you don't want to miss those moments. Those are moments that are really important.
Yeah, it is tough when you have to put food on the table and pay for all the bills, and at the same time your kids are growing and you're missing out. But it's like you do so well in one area and you're always feeling like you're not doing so well on the other area. And I think that parents, we need to have compassion for ourselves. Like, we're doing the most important, the most urgent need at the moment, and we cannot cover it all. As much as we want to be superheroes, sometimes you can only do so much.
That's true. You need to sort of give yourself permission to listen. I can't be everything and all things to people, and you just have to choose what's going to be important at that point in time. But I do, as parents, we do have a responsibility. We brought a life into the world, and it's important that we try to give our children, and I'm not talking monetarily, the best that we can from an emotional level. A spiritual level. It's one thing that I do talk about, and I just started developing. You and I were just talking about parents and how can they affect your life, and that can also be a trickling effect in your love life. And sometimes when you don't feel that you're good enough, worth it, and you find somebody, and you're actually attracting a person that they might start to say that to you, and before you know it, you have then created the same situation you had when you were younger. And it's important to sort of kind of break that, those patterns, and those are hard. It's like kids that come from parents that have addiction issues, and the same thing occurs. And then when they go out in the world, not necessarily that they have addiction issues, but they could be attracting an individual that has addiction issues. And that you've heard stories like that. So it's important that as parents, we have a responsibility, whoever we bring into our life. Let's say, parent, you didn't marry and you didn't stay with the partner of your children. Okay, that's fine. But it's important that you demonstrate to your children the proper love and giving them wholeheartedness and making them feel that they're worthy, because you're leaving a legacy to them that it's important to find healthy love. And that's very important. I call that generational love. There's a term called generational wealth because we are always striving. We want our kids to have a better life than we had, and we want to leave them money. But more important than money is we need to leave them a wholeheartedness lifestyle and childhood. And it's not always by money. And that gives them the discipline. It gives them the example that when they meet somebody, they have a healthy relationship. And that's the biggest gift you can give.
It is. Also, I decided today that I'm going to create a spiritual web show as well. You're welcome to come. It's called Pure Soul. So it's going to be about those connections that we have with God, with the universe, with our guides, with our angels, about that knowledge that is there without anyone teach you, and the gifts that we have since we're young. So that's going to cover a different I guess, source of information that people might be attracted to. So you're welcome to come as a guest on that one too. I'm gonna look to start it soon. I have a
well, we all have angels. We all have guardian angels, so it doesn't matter. We need to just listen to them sometimes.
Yes, you'll be amazed how situations turn when you already know that you should have listened and you didn't. And then you know why you should have listened, because it just, they told you, but you decided to go your way and it didn't work out that well.
Yes, and sometimes, that's a self-learning process. So when I equate that to dating, because there are people that go out in the world, Maria, and especially when you hit a certain age in life, your 40s, 50s, 60s, you get back in the dating world and you figure, I know everything. I've lived life. This is what you tell yourself. I know better. And yet you go out in the dating world and you make mistakes. And there are challenges, and then you attract the wrong person. And that's part of that self-learning concept, which is because we need to listen to our gut. But one of the things too is from the self-learning concept, it's important that sometimes you need to hire a coach. As you know, in just with speaking, public speaking, we just don't go out and speak, because we've used Darren LaCroix, George Gilbert, all those different platforms on how to craft and speak to people. And that's because we rely on their best practices and their best teachings to help us. And also, if you want to, let's say, go and improve your golf game, right? You go out, you might hire a coach to help you, and that coach assesses you. And they give you information to help you become better at what you're doing. And famous people have coaches. They didn't become famous overnight, they have coaches. And yet, Maria, it amazes me, because when it comes to people's love life, they don't believe, they leave that like up to chance. We think that true love comes from what? Fairy tales, right? From romance novels, movies, literature that tells us that true love, right, comes by chance. But really, it's a matter of making a choice. Prince Charming is not going to just show up at your doorstep, or Princess Charming. You need to make a conscious effort to do that. And that's important too. So always it's important that as we go through life, and people think coaches are very expensive, they're not. They're not at all. You'd be very surprised. But it's important we go through life, and if we really want to become better at what we're doing, and we want to improve ourselves, we need to hire coaches. So whether it's a coach physically, to help you physically, to help you with your professional skills, and even your love skills, believe it or not, it's important.
Yeah, love skills are important as parenting skills if you're looking to have children, because when you allow a person to come into your life, you need to be aware of they might steal from you, they might cheat on you, they might lie to you. And how are you gonna get out of that relationship? It's like if you're getting yourself in that car, and you might have a really bad accident if you're not preparing for it. And we need to love with open eyes. And it is an investment willing to do, because your whole life can be much better or much worse, depending on your love life decisions and who you include into your life, but also into your environment. When you give someone the information where they can probably harm you in any possible manner or take advantage of your possessions, and that includes your kids and whatever it is that you have that they might get a hold of, it is important that we choose a person that is going to be beneficial and not harming our life or our situation in any manner.
Oh gosh, that is so true. You said that so eloquently, Maria, because people don't realize, everything they do in life, especially if you have children and you're
Yeah.
dating, and who you expose them to. I mean, that person you're exposing them to also sets an example for them. And if listen to what your kids say. Like you said, kids are young. If there's something they don't like about someone you're dating, now I'm not talking because they could be they have an allegiance to their parent, their other parent. That's a different situation. But if your child is telling you something about the person you're with or dating, listen to them. Listen to the gut. That's God telling you. That's whatever. Really take a hold of that. So as you know, I was married 33 years. My husband passed away 8 years ago, and I was with somebody in 2016. Now my daughter's 35 years old now. She has 3 kids, married, and there was a man I was going to marry. And something still wasn't right. And my daughter came to me and said, Mom, I just don't feel right. And I said to myself, and she goes, no, I'm going to respect whoever you marry. But that was important to me, Maria, because that was going to cause a wedge. And actually, when I went digging,
Yeah.
I wound up calling, we were going to get married. I called off the wedding 6 weeks beforehand because something prodded her. Maybe it was God, whatever it is. She came to me, and when I went digging, there was some stuff that I found that I would not, it went against my moral values. It went against the type of person I was, and I called off the wedding. So you know what? Listen to your kids. And I don't mean in a way where they might be a little jealous or envious, but take note to that. And, I always tell people that if you meet somebody, there's like 4 questions you need to ask yourself. Is this somebody that you really enjoy being around? Do you have a great friendship and they are going to encourage you and coach you and always want to see you do your best? Because as long as they're not bringing you down, that they're jealous, that's somebody that really wants to see you excel and loves you. Okay, that's important. And somebody that you can trust, that you can share your deepest secrets, that's important as well. And one thing also I talk about is you need to be able to take that person home to mom. Now, mom might not be around, but the same thing applies. You need to take them home to your kids too.
Yeah.
And that's important as well. And, those are things that are really, really make a big, big difference. And the thing is that you need to be able to trust that person. And if you can't trust that person, then bringing them into your life, whether you have children, family, or friends, it's just not worth it. You need to move on and don't settle. And I think that's what happens. We settle, and we should never. That's where you're doing a disservice to yourself.
Yes, it is important. I was talking to one of my friends that I interviewed. It's a male, and he says his mom was single for many years, and she dated different men. And he says he learned the behaviors of each of those men, and he learned how to treat women through them, and the way they used to treat his mom. And he realizes that learning hasn't brought positive relationships to him. And it is important, and it might not be your kid, it might be your younger brother, it might be your sister, it might be someone that get impacted by that person coming into your life and the way they treat them and the way they behave, and they might be learning something that is not necessarily be helpful for them.
No, you're right, that's so true.
So is this True Love Keynotes your website?
So True Love Knots is my website.
Okay.
And I have a couple of different programs, but right now I'm getting ready to launch a membership program to people that's very, very affordable at $27 a month, where they can access a membership program and have a half an hour every month of free coaching with me, free coaching, as well as they get access to I have a digital course that they would have access to, and daily affirmations. And then of course, every month I would be bringing them different topics on a Facebook forum for people in my membership. So, because people, again, I want to make this affordable. Like I was saying, it's important that people recognize that coaching is not expensive. It's just a matter of seeking, but you want to find somebody that gives you best practices, best advice, and that it's objective advice. And my coaching isn't just where I help you get ready to go out in the dating world. My coaching goes beyond that, because then you can meet somebody And I just don't leave you after 1 or 2 dates. Then we take it when you, as your relationship is evolving, because sometimes you might come across some issues, and maybe then that is a red flag that you're not paying attention to. So that's where a coach comes in and gives you an objective viewpoint. Or, or maybe you're acting out the way you shouldn't be, and maybe you need to change your behavior to make that relationship work. So there's a few things. And I think that's important. It's like when you go to the doctor, right? So now you're all healed and you don't see them anymore. Well, sometimes you need to go back. It's the same. It's true.
Yeah, well, it is important. I'm going to tell you a story, a little one. My sister-in-law, she got married, and after 2 days, she was married. She didn't feel like she wanted to have sex with the husband, and he beat her up. And she didn't go back to her mom's house, but it is important that you keep on taking care of the relationship and the person that you're coaching, because you never know that what is going to happen after the marriage, after they move in. You never know how the personality is gonna just reveal and show up and become wild, and people's lives can be in danger. Who would have thought? They were so young.
That's true. And that's an interesting story about your
Yeah, my sister-in-law. Yeah, well, I'm not married to
not to
your
your
brother anymore.
right.
Yeah, but yeah, that was like.
And you know what? And that's the red flags, and that's something that you need to be aware of. And that's why people should not rush into a relationship. No matter, there are people that we rush into a relationship because we have that biological clock going, right? We think, oh my God, we got to get married by a certain age because we can't have children, right? As women, that's not true, okay? And some people like not to have children. That's okay too, in your life together with somebody. So that biological clock is ticking. And then when you get to my age, when you get to the 60s, you're thinking, oh my God, I only have so much longer, and I've got to get into a relationship right away. And you fast track it. And that's the worst thing you can do. That's the worst thing, because you need to take time. It takes a good 1.5 to 2 years to really get to know somebody. And after about 9 months, and that's what happened in my case with the gentleman that I was going to marry afterwards, and I'm glad I didn't, because that's when they say the leopard, can never hide their spots. And everybody has, we have little idiosyncrasies, and we might have some bad habits, but it doesn't mean that you can't live with them. And we're all not perfect, but that's why you need to take your time. If you want to live with somebody, I think that's fine too. I think when you have children, you need to be careful, because that's a rippling effect. And you just don't know when you're bringing somebody in your home if they're going to be, even though you might think they're the best influence, they might not be. So I always caution people to take a little bit longer. There's nothing wrong. Like, listen, your mother waited 9 months for you, right? And Rome wasn't built in a day. Take your time. I married a couple 3 years ago, because I'm a minister too, and I marry people, and I've done over 3,000 weddings in the last 11 years. And there was a couple I married, and their name was Sam and Vivian Maria, and I'll never forget them. It was on the Valentine's Day 2017. It was my last wedding, and Sam was so excited. He had gorgeous blue eyes, and Vivian was coming down the aisle, and you could tell he was so in love with her. So Vivian was a cougar. She was 92 years old.
Oh my God.
And he was 87. True. And she actually came down the aisle in a scooter.
Oh, wow.
He was in a walker. And they met at an assisted living a year beforehand, and they got married. So you know what? If you're looking to find love again, you never know. You never know when and where. But take your time. Take your time. Get to know each other. Get to know yourself first, and then get to know then bring somebody in your life. But get to know and love yourself first.
I'm glad that you mentioned that, because that tells people you're never too old. People is getting married at 92.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
With the younger fellow, right?
Yeah, right. 80s, he was fine. She was a cougar.
Yeah, that is funny. I think being a minister, it has given you many experiences that you can share with people, and people can learn from it.
Yes, and that is true. I'm a cradle Catholic. I grew up in the Catholic religion, and I go to church. I definitely take my communion and all, but I love being around people, and actually, love is so important. And I found my calling later on in life when I realized that this was a calling for me to help people recognize, first of all, get people back in the dating world. People are lonely. And loneliness is a big underlying factor for diabetes, heart attack, stroke, addiction, depression. And that's because people are really want a relationship and they just don't know how. Or like you said, somebody told them that they weren't worthy of it. They had a bad, marriage and it didn't work out. But that doesn't mean you can't turn it around. Maybe with a little bit of counseling through a therapist, maybe some coaching in your love life, you really can attract somebody. And there's no reason people should not, we're wired to have relationships. That is something that we were actually, we're kind of made to do that. And, some of us have relationships with the opposite sex and some of us have relationships with the same sex, but love is still love. And that's something we need to recognize.
No, of course. How do you bring someone up when they've been cheated on many times? When they have a relationship with the cheater and they're aware and the person doesn't change, they just keep on doing it?
Well, you're cheating yourself if you stay in that relationship.
Yeah.
I really think that's the first thing. You're not allowing yourself to really receive the type of love that you're worthy of. And that's the first thing that you need to do. You need to assess and need to find out, why am I not loving myself that I'm allowing this behavior to occur? And why is this behavior still reoccurring? And then it's time to really cut that cord and say, you know what, enough is enough. And that's what's important, to do that. And sometimes that happens that somebody cheats and it doesn't have anything to do with you, who you are. It's just a matter of they're still not happy in themselves. Or maybe they made the wrong choice with maybe picking you. Maybe there was something in the relationship that both of you didn't necessarily, there's something that you don't bring out the best in each other, that they're looking for something else. But, relationships, that's why you have to take your time and not rush. And, there are people that think, oh, when they get married, that person will settle down. They're not going to want to go out with their friends. And, you can't change somebody. You might as well, that is a fallacy. Now, some people want to change. Some people, when they fall in love, when they find the right person, they do. But there are still other people that don't. And you just need to, again, know who you are. You need to write down what you want. And you really need to write down and be specific about what you want in a relationship. And that's important, and not overlook certain things. Not just say, I want somebody that has a lot of money that can take care of me, for example. I want somebody that's going to be somebody that I can look up to as well, somebody that I admire, somebody that's going to allow me to grow, somebody that's going to be my best friend, somebody that's not going to ridicule me, so, belittle me. Those are things. And somebody that, if you have children, that's going to be a good role model for my children, whether you have children together or not, or somebody that's just going to be a good role model in my life and for those around me that are influenced by me. So those are things that you really need to be specific.
Yeah, I understand the importance. It's critical that we are aware who we're dating and that we're able to get out of a relationship that is not healthy for us. And
No.
it might be the greatest person, but if you're not in love, so what I recommend women is that if you're going for the money and you're not learning how to survive when he's gone, or maybe if the family fights the money, what are you gonna do? I don't think it's the best decision not to learn anything and to always rely on the other person to take care of places, to do everything for you, because what if anything happens to them? What are you gonna do? How are you gonna support yourself?
Absolutely. You need to be able to take care of yourself. And that's the key thing. And listen, now some people, especially women, they decide, okay, they have a few children, they are going to stay at home. And that is a big responsibility. As you well know, it's worth a lot of money, but make sure you pay yourself. Make sure your spouse recognizes that. You need to pay yourself. But in the meantime, as they get a little older, start looking and transitioning and think about what you want to do in life. Okay,
Mm.
because yes, what happens is we get so caught up in that, children, then they get older, they go off, and we're thinking, okay, well, I'm going to wait till my husband, my partner, we're going to travel more, we're going to do things, and then something could happen in the relationship. The partner, unfortunately, could maybe pass away. The partner could decide they don't want to be with that person. So yes, that's something you need to make sure that you still have a part of your world that you're involved in, that keeps you active and keeps you mentally. You know what a woman that first of all is confident and knows who she is and knows what she wants and has sort of a career or a passion is sexy. That's what's that is what's sexy.
I can see that. What would you tell a woman who has been married like 30 years? The husband decides to go for a younger one, and she was relying on him for everything, and now she doesn't know what to do with her life.
Yeah, that does happen. Unfortunately, yes, men are very visual and they do think that they may be trading in for a younger, sleeker model. But I have to tell you something. That does happen, and that shatters your ego. But remember, it has nothing to do with you. It's that person, the other person. It's the insecurity that they feel in themselves. And what happens later on, and I hear this story a lot,
Yeah.
is person winds up being married 30 years, they build a life together. Then they wind up divorcing, so their assets is split, right?
Yeah.
And also sometimes the family is divided. That happens as well. They go trade it in for a younger model. They go live with that younger model. They get married. And then before you know it, they're home alone. Why? Because that younger model wants to go out and do different things and recognizes that they're an older model. Not that there's anything wrong with the older model. They recognize that there's a commonality isn't there, that they really, sometimes they were attracted to their money, to their power, to what they did. So, that's the thing is you want to be able to attract somebody in your life that's going to love you for who you are, not because of what you can give them, not because of what you have done in your professional world, because that can go away in the blink of an eye. They have to love you and like you for who you are. So a woman or a man that goes through 30 years of marriage, you really need to try to see if you can salvage the relationship, because there are times in relationships where couples they get kind of flat and they get disenchanted. So you need to more or less reignite that passion. But you both need to be willing to do that. And you both should go for some great therapy, some great counseling, because then you can reignite the passion. But then there are going to be there's sometimes situations where, somebody might have an addiction issue. So you're better off, what, you've lived with it for so many years, you just move on. So yeah, it's a tough situation, but every situation's unique.
It is. What do you tell someone who is looking for their purpose and they haven't found it? They haven't filled that calling.
No, you know what? Just allow yourself to be and allow your mind to, we have that monkey mind and we're always
Yes.
out there thinking, turn it off. I think meditating and praying is so important. And it's hard to meditate. It's hard to really, to place yourself. I used to have to go to church. Now church isn't open all the time. But for me, that was my quiet time. That was the time where I can just allow to be. And I knew that my calling, my purpose, I don't like controversy. I don't like conflict. I don't like people that are mean and nasty. And I knew that my calling was to talk about love and how you can salvage relationships, how you can rectify, how you can go about. So for me, that was my calling. And it took me many years to get there. And you know what? It might not happen in your 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s. It can happen in your 60s. It's okay. It's okay. But listen to who you are and your being and what you want. And that's the key thing. Don't deny yourself the pleasure of who you are.
Yeah, like I said earlier, live every stage in your life because you never know when you're gonna be called, and don't feel like it's gonna be too late. It's never too late.
That's right. It isn't.
Thank you so much, Maria. Do you want to tell us where people can follow you or
Oh,
the group?
yes. Thank you so much, Marie. And thank you for having me on your platform. I look forward to, hopefully, I would love to come back again. So my new book is out, Going from Just One to a Plus One. It is an Amazon bestseller in a couple of different categories. There's the ebook. The paperback is out, but you won't be able to get it till next week, and I'll send you the cover of that. But you can reach me, Maria, at True Love Knots, and it's TRUELOVE. The Knots is KNOTS.com. I'm accessible. Maria will have my information. I'm available. I take my own phone calls, and I answer all my emails.
Thank you. So you have no secretary in between?
I am the secretary.
That's awesome. Yeah, we will. I will share the information, pictures, and anything you want to send me, and also to encourage people to join your coaching program because it is cheap. I see the need for it. I see the importance because it is important for what we bring into our life and that we love ourselves first.
That's true. And I'll send you that information. You go have a great day.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you. I appreciate your time. Thank you. You're
My
so kind. I'm so glad to have you. I see people happy that you're here. So I think it's going to be a success. No doubt about it.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.